Hey, my name is Rachel Kirkpatrick, and today I'm going to give you a presentation over the science of reading. Before we get started, I wanted to give you a quick introduction. Like I said before, my name is Rachel. This is my second year teaching with Virtual Arkansas. I teach American Sign Language, and I teach our DYS students health and wellness. I'm in the Master of Arts in Teaching program at the University of Arkansas at Monticello, and today I'm going to tell you about the science of reading. I'm going to tell you about the 7 key parts to it, and I'm going to tell you about why we need it as teachers in Arkansas and how we can help our students. So the science of reading, what it is, according to Johnny Key, which is the Arkansas Department of Education, he's the commissioner, okay, and he says that the science of reading, the Right to Read Act, course was developed to assist teachers with meeting the requirements of Act 1063, which is the Right to Read Act. That was passed by the Arkansas General Assembly in 2017. Okay, that's going to aid to the RISE program, which is the Reading Initiative of Student Excellence. Okay, it's a commonly known program for teachers in Arkansas. And teachers are going to be able to take the science of reading on ideas. Right now, I'm currently in Part 10. Virtual Arkansas is making us do it, and I've really enjoyed it so far. I think it's helped my kids in my classroom, and it's helped me excel as a teacher. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about the theoretical models. I'm going to start with Erie's phases. There's going to be 4 phases within this. It's going to be the pre-alphabetic, the partial alphabetic, the full alphabetic, and the consolidated alphabetic. J.R. Beach is where I'm going to be citing my sources from. So J.R. Beach 2015 says the pre-alphabetic stage is this so-called phase. This is so called because it occurs prior to any alphabetic knowledge. In other words, identification does not involve making any letter-to-sound connections. Okay, so for this one, this would be a younger student. It might be a kindergarten student, and they might recognize their name on the board. And they'll notice that that's their name, but they're not going to know that each letter of their name makes a sound. Okay, so they're not making that letter-to-sound connection yet. In the partial alphabetic stage, J.R. Beach 2015 says, in this phase, the reader uses a combination of reading some letters in the words and using these to attempt a pronunciation. The first and final letters are usually the most important within this phase. Okay, so we have a student and they have the word cat. They might notice that the word cat starts with the letter C, and C says K. That's going to be their partial alphabetic stage. In the full alphabetic stage, according to J.R. Beach 2015, the reader is now able to form alphabetic connections, but not just the alphabetic ones. The developing reader can also map graphemes and phonemes to sight words. Okay, so for this one, the example is going to be changing the word within. Okay, so that's going to be students changing the word within. For consolidated alphabetic, J.R. Beach 2015 says, with continuing practice at reading in this final phase, recurring letter patterns become consolidated or unitized. Okay, so in the consolidated alphabetic stage, that's going to be where students can add prefixes or suffixes. Okay, so they've kind of got the full understanding. They're in that consolidated alphabetic stage. Okay, let's move on to the 4-part processor. So we have phonological processor, the orthographic processor, the meaning processor, and the context processor. Okay, according to letters, the LETRS, Module 1, Chapter 3, the phonological processor is the processing system enables us to perceive, remember, interpret, and produce the speech sound system of our own language and learn the sounds of other languages. Okay, so that's going to be the phonological processor. So students in this are going to be able to pronounce words. When we go on to the orthographic processor, LETRS Module 1, Chapter 3 says the orthographic processor is the orthographic processing system receives visual input from printed words. It perceives and recognizes letter, punctuation marks, spaces, and letter patterns within the words. Okay, so this is when students are going to be able to spell some of those words. They're using the orthographic processor for that. The meaning processor, according to LETRS Module 1, Chapter 3, they say the meaning processor is also called the semantic processor because it interprets the meanings of words in and out of context. Okay, So students are going to be able to interpret nonsense words. Okay, they're going to try to, they're going to look at those nonsense words that don't make any sense, and they're going to try to interpret the meaning of it. Okay, and the context processor, the final one, LETRS Module 1, Chapter 3 says its primary job is to interact with and provide support for the meaning processor. Okay, so in that meaning processor, students are trying to interpret those nonsense words, but in this one, they're going to understand the correct meaning, and it's going to be a major role in reading with the science of reading. So all these parts brought together are going to contribute to the science of reading. Okay, so we have Scarborough's reading rope. Personally, I love this one. This is my favorite. The International Dyslexia Association talks about Scarborough's reading rope. They say the reading rope consists of lower and upper strands. Okay, so we're going to have those two strands. The word recognition strands, phonological awareness. It's going to be decoding and sight recognition of familiar words. Okay, they're going to work together as the reader becomes accurate, fluent, and increasingly automatic with repetition and practice. Concurrently, the language comprehension strands, background knowledge, vocabulary, language structures, verbal reasoning, and literacy knowledge reinforce one another to weave together with the word recognition strands to produce a skilled reader. Okay, so we're going to have that language comprehension. That's going to be the top part. And each section of that is going to tie into the word recognition in those bottom parts. And when they get tied together, they're going to create a skilled reader. Okay, and right here I added in a picture of it so you can see the reading rope for yourself, and that you can see that when you bring all these parts together, you create a rope, and it's going to be your skilled reader. It's going to be that visual representation of it. And for this, I think this is one of the major parts of the science of reading. Okay, because it's going to be that visual representation. Students tend to draw towards the visual representations, and teachers can have this in their classroom to hang up. It's going to be an easy way to show students how to be a skilled reader. Okay, so we have the simple view of reading. So it's going to be a little bit similar to Scarborough's reading rope. Okay, so it's still going to talk about it. I put the example on here again so you can see it as well. K.A. Munger says, as mentioned previously, the simple view of reading, Goen Tumner, 1986, is a research-supported representation of how reading comprehension develops. Okay, so it's going to be those same two concepts as before it, the language comprehension and the word recognition. And when you tie those two together, you're going to create that reading rope like I talked about in that previous slide. So phonological awareness, okay? According to the Regents of the University of Michigan in 2019, phonological awareness is a metacognitive skill, i.e. an awareness and ability to think about one's own thinking for the sounds of language. Okay, so this is where all of the reading and writing skills are going to come together. It's going to be all the different components. They're going to be tied in. It's going to be the words and sentences, the syllables, isolation, segmentation. I'm sorry, I can't ever say that one. Blending, the rhyme and alliteration, and onset rhyming. Okay, that's all going to be a part of the phonological awareness. And it connects to the science of reading because everything ties together. It's going to be every part of the science of reading. It's going to be the little parts tied in. Okay, so we have phonics. This is in our book that we're reading in the class. Beck I.E. and Beck M.E. in 2013 say phonics, sorry I spelled that wrong, is about the relationship between letters and their sounds. Okay, so phonics is going to be that science of reading. Okay, it's going to tie back into that because phonics are going to be where students need their phonics to read. That's going to be the sounds of the letters of the alphabet make. Okay, growing up, I learned phonics differently than what they do here at school now, okay? They're using a lot of those sight words. I didn't really use sight words. I relied more on phonics and going to be that letter sound correlation, okay? The way you can teach it now, there's so many different ways. It's an ongoing battle of how it's changing over the years and how there's different ways that you can teach it. You know, in our book, it talks about how it's changed over the years and what's going to be the right or wrong way. Personally, I learned phonics growing up. I didn't learn the sight words as much. Okay, we have fluency. According to WETA, fluency is defined as the ability to read with speed, accuracy, and proper expression. In order to understand what they read, children must be able to read fluently, whether they are reading aloud or silently. When reading aloud, fluent readers read in phases and add annotation appropriately. The reading is smooth and it has expression. Okay, so you need fluency in your reading because you need to be able to read and comprehend words. And that's going to draw back to fluency and what it is. Students need to be able to comprehend what they're reading. They're going to be able to read at a good pace, which is going to be that fluency. Fluency can be out loud or it can be silent. It doesn't matter which one it is, students will still use fluency for that. And for the science of reading, it ties back into that because students need to be able to have comprehension of words. So they're going to use that comprehension, and it's going to be the accuracy of their reading. Okay, vocabulary. WETA says vocabulary refers to the words we must understand to communicate effectively. Educators often consider 4 types of vocabulary: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Listening vocabulary refers to the words we need to know to understand what we hear. Speaking vocabulary consists of the words we use when we speak. Reading vocabulary refers to the words we need to know to understand what we read. Writing vocabulary consists of the words we use in writing. Okay, so we have those 4 different parts. We have the listening, speaking, the reading, and the writing. And all of those are, different parts of vocabulary and what we need. We need to be able to understand vocabulary to listen. Okay, students need to be able to listen to be able to read. Okay, that's going to be able to hear it. You need to be able to speak it, read it, and write it, and listen to it to be successful. Okay, you need all of those parts. And it's going to be important because how can you read without vocabulary? Each word that you're reading is going to be that vocabulary. Okay, and that's how it ties into the science of reading. Okay, we have code emphasis versus meaning emphasis. So in code emphasis, Satori says a code emphasis approach to early reading skills requires students to learn a specific code or sets of letters and words. This code is a controlled setting where they are chosen specifically by the teacher or the lesson. Okay, so code emphasis, that's going to be that controlled setting. That's going to be where a teacher is teaching and the students are going to be in that controlled setting with it. And teachers are going to be able to teach their students those sight words with that. So meaning emphasis, Satori says that meaning emphasis, on the other hand, encourages the use of whole word reading. This type of approach introduces a large variety of words that seem appearingly often in different types of text. Okay, so that's going to be the sight words. The code emphasis is going to be more of those phonics, that lesson, the phonological side of it, and a teacher teaching that lesson. This meaning emphasis is going to be those sight words. That's going to be how a teacher teaches those. And this kind of draws it back to that phonics debate. Okay, should you be using phonics? Should you be using sight words? Everything is constantly changing. And so will we ever know if there's going to be a right or wrong answer for that? Orthographic mapping. According to D. Kilpatrick, orthographic mapping is how we remember the words that we read. Okay? We use more than students use it more than we realize. Okay? That's going to be them remembering what they read. That's going to be when they're learning in your classroom. Okay? So making that connection for students is going to be huge. Okay? Students will eventually become automatic with words. So when they're learning and they're using that orthographic connection, you'll start with the basics when you're teaching them. They're going to start with the basics, and then they're going to practice those. And then eventually they're going to turn into reading. And that's going to be using the orthographic mapping. And that's how it ties into all aspects of reading. In conclusion, today I told you about the science of reading, and I told you the different parts that go into the science of reading. I told you about orthographic mapping, code emphasis versus meaning emphasis, vocabulary, fluency, phonics, phonological awareness, the simple view of reading, Scarborough's reading rope, the 4-part processor, Erie's phases, and that's how it all ties into the science of reading. Each of these parts are so specific for the science of reading that you can't take them out. You need these parts for the science of reading. I hope you were able to learn something today, and I thank you so much for watching. And here are the sources that I used at the end, of course. Wanted to throw those in there as well. Thank you.